Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for today in the rLounge. We frequently get caught up in the challenges and conflicts, letting negativity take center stage. But today in the rLounge, surprises really can happen. Up first, a 26-year-old's patience with her younger sister's mess reaches its breaking point. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my sister for not complying to my house rules? I, 26 female, live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I was living alone for the most part until last month when my younger sister, 23 female, started living with me after my parents kicked her out due to her not contributing to the house. She had nowhere else to go, and she pretty much begged me to let her stay with me. I said that if she wants to live with me, she needs to follow the house rules. She is in her last year of university, so I said that she didn't need to contribute financially, but had to contribute to household chores, something that she didn't do when living with my parents. I am a clean person and I like my house to be neat and tidy. At first, she complied. She kept the kitchen clean, did her assigned chores, and would always clean up after herself. Then, recently, around 2 weeks ago, she started slacking. She wouldn't do the dishes on her day, trashed the guest bathroom, messed up the living room by leaving her clothes everywhere, and would not put things away. For example, she made a sandwich and she didn't put away the bread, the vegetables, or the condiments. It was infuriating. I work 5 days a week and I'm exhausted. So I spoke to my sister and told her she needs to help me out by keeping my home clean. She just went, okay. My sister did start cleaning, but it was only after I started nagging and being annoying. I then sat her down and warned her that I will be kicking her out if she starts slacking and turning my apartment into a pigsty. I said this is my house and she needs to follow the rules if she wants to continue living with me. Fast forward to 2 days ago. I invited my friends over and told my sister to clean the guest bathroom and the kitchen and just tidy up the living room because my friends were coming over and I was at work. So I wanted the house to be clean when I got home and I would just prepare snacks. Well, my sister didn't do any of that. When I came home, the house looked extremely messy and it was not like that before I left. The dishes in the sink, food in the countertop, blankets in the living room, even the guest bathroom was messy. I lost it. I screamed at my sister and told her to pack her crap and get the F out of my home. She cried and begged me to give her another chance, and I said no. She had one effing task and she didn't do one thing. We argued some more until she tearfully agreed to leave. She packed her bags and left. I quickly cleaned my house and had my friends over like normal. My parents are on my side, but my relatives are giving me grief for kicking my sister out, and they called me evil and a control freak a-hole. My sister is staying with my aunt as my parents refuse to let her stay with them. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Another issue is my sister would hog the washer and dryer. I do laundry once a week or sometimes twice a week. She would be so lazy to do her laundry that she would wait until her laundry basket is extremely full and she would take forever to finish. This would cause me to sometimes miss my day to do laundry, as she would take an entire effing week to do her laundry, and I did speak to her about this and told her to stop. Of course, she didn't listen, so I locked the laundry closet by purchasing a lock with some sort of rope to prevent her from opening, and it worked. She had no choice but to go elsewhere to do laundry. I've also been super pushy with her regarding the kitchen, mainly because my kitchen is open space, and it's the first thing that I see when I come home. So seeing the kitchen messy is quite an eyesore for me and makes me anxious. Edit 2. As for the dishes, I told my sister that I don't care how she did them, either hand washing or using a dishwasher. I don't care. I want them clean and out of sight. So I did give her some options on how she did the dishes. Update 1. My mom called me about 20 minutes ago telling me that she wants us to all meet sometime this week to have a talk with my sister about her not following house rules and perhaps see why she acts so defiant when it comes to following them. My aunt also called me explaining that she can't have my sister staying with her for long because there's just no room. My aunt has 3 kids and there isn't room for my sister, so she will also be coming over this week so we can all have a chat and figure out a solution together as a family. I have no intentions on letting my sister stay with me again, and neither do my parents. My aunt is letting her stay with her in the meantime. It sounds like you've been really clear about your expectation and have given your sister multiple chances to follow the rules you've set for living together. Living with someone, especially a family member, can be challenging, and it's understandable that you want to maintain a clean and organized home, especially after a long day at work. It might be worth considering a family discussion to see if there's a compromise that could work for everyone involved. Is it really all that much to ask someone to clean up after themselves? I don't think so. Update. Hello everyone. I thought I might make an update regarding the post I made about kicking my sister out of my house. First, I would like to thank everyone who commented and assured me that I was not doing anything wrong by kicking my sister out. Here's the update. The first thing I did, despite everyone's warnings, I went over to my parents' house to talk with my aunt and my sister to come up with a solution, as my aunt did say my sister couldn't stay long term as there isn't any room. We talked, and surprisingly my sister followed my aunt's house rules. She cleaned up after herself, and she even bought groceries when my aunt said she didn't need to do that. My sister apologized to me for giving me a hard time and not keeping my apartment clean when I'm gone at work. She admitted she was just too lazy and didn't think I'd be that angry, to the point where I'd kick her out. I accepted her apology, and that's when my aunt asked my parents if they'd be comfortable letting her move back in with them, as my sister is no longer welcome to stay with me. My parents said they did some thinking, and they are willing to let her stay under one condition. She needs to contribute, and not just with household chores. She needs to start paying rent, and after she gets a job, she needs to start looking for places of her own. My sister has a part-time job at the university, so she agreed to my parents' conditions. That was a couple of weeks ago. Now, I was over at my parents' house an hour ago for lunch, and my sister had improved. She doesn't leave her clothes in the living room and cleans up after herself. I asked my parents about that, and they said another part of the condition is if she made a mess or didn't clean up after herself, she would have to pay a fine, which is $5. Since my sister wasn't willing to spend so much money knowing she would be charged with fines if she didn't help keep the house clean, that was when she started being a bit more reasonable. I guess the only way to get her to clean is if you charge her with a fine. That's the update. I'm just relieved that there was no drama or problems. Now, one thing I do need to mention is that my sister wasn't really happy at first about having to pay rent or financially contribute, but she agreed nonetheless, and that's what matters. It's great that your parents are willing to help out with a clear set of expectations. It sounds like the combination of a structured environment and a bit of financial accountability is making a big difference. I hope this new arrangement works out well and helps her get on the path to being more responsible. And hey, if she keeps up this new habit of cleaning and contributing, maybe she'll be ready for her own place sooner than expected. Thanks for the update, and I'm glad there's been no more drama. Fingers crossed it stays that way. What would you have done? Let us know in the comments below. Up next, a simple Christmas gift turns into a life-changing discovery. My dad found his biological parents, and it turns out they've been searching for him for 56 years. I'm not sure this is the place to post this, but I just wanted to get my excitement out somewhere, so I figured that this counts as getting off my chest. Shout out to r/, who helped me discover this subreddit. As you would expect from the title, my dad, male 56, was adopted at birth. He was raised in Eastern Canada and never really searched for his birth parents. The people who raised him are his parents to him, and he loves them very much. They have always been amazing grandparents to my sister, female 19, and I, male 22. All he had from his birth parents was a letter which told him he was born out of love, but they could not support him when he was born. So when my sister decided to get him a genetic test for Christmas, it was purely with the intention to find out what ethnicity we all are, and the thought of finding his birth parents didn't even cross our minds. Eventually, when we got his results, we were surprised to find that the names of two people with perfect genetic matches to my dad. He had the option to reach out to them. So he wrote them each an email and just waited for their response. Almost immediately, his biological dad, who I'll call Jim, not his real name, responded. He said how excited and happy he was to have found my dad and how he was looking for him for so long. My dad, who is usually an emotionally reserved man, was curled up on the couch grinning as he was texting Jim for the first time. I was still in shock from the news, but was so happy to see my dad even happier than when I graduated university. Soon thereafter, he also received a message from his biological mom, Debbie, not her real name. By talking to them both, my dad learned the story of his birth, and I think that it's absolutely wild. Debbie is the daughter of an Australian mining engineer, and they all moved to Canada for his work when she was in high school. Later on, they moved to the Midwest, where she met Jim at the age of 17. They were high school sweethearts and were thinking of marriage after they graduated. But then Debbie got pregnant. This being the 60s, this was a huge deal. Her dad was furious and sent her back to Canada to give birth and arranged a private adoption, as he knew of a couple who were trying to have a kid, my grandparents. Once she gave birth, she was able to let Jim know that she was being sent back to Australia. They never saw each other again for the next 40 years. Jim was apparently only able to move on once he received a letter over 5 years later from Debbie saying that she got married. Eventually, he got married too, and they moved to the West Coast. but his wife got into a terrible car crash and lost the use of both legs and one arm, so they were never able to have kids. Debbie had 3 daughters in Australia, the oldest of which is 7 years younger than my dad. They saw each other for the first time around 12 years ago, as they reconnected on Facebook, and Debbie happened to be taking a trip to the west coast of America. Both Jim and Debbie had always wanted to keep my dad, so they tried for decades to find him. But my province apparently is one of the hardest places in the world to find adoption information, especially since my dad only received his birth certificate at his baptism, so their names were not on it. Jim had essentially given up trying to find my dad until genetic tests became popular. He asked Debbie to take every single one, and he did the same about 5 years ago, in the hopes that one day my dad would take one. When he received my dad's message, he immediately wrote to Debbie, "I found him." Since then, we have had several calls with Jim and his wife, and they are absolutely lovely. We are their only family since they don't have kids, and I couldn't be happier. At the end of the month, we'll be flying to the West Coast to meet them. It has been harder to talk to Debbie as Australia is so many hours ahead of us, but she is also so kind and an absolute joy to talk to. I haven't met my 3 new aunts yet, but apparently one lives in London. It's crazy to think that I might have been within a few kilometers of her the few times I've visited. I also have 5 younger cousins. A couple of them are huge fans of Japanese culture, so they're ecstatic to hear that they have half Japanese cousins. My mom is Japanese Canadian, so my sister and I are both half. We hope to visit them one day in Australia, but we might all meet up in Japan next year. I don't know how to end this. I'm still processing everything. It's absolutely incredible to have my family grow so much, but also a little overwhelming. I'm so happy for my dad, for Jim, and for Debbie, and am so excited to get to know them better. I hope I get to meet my new cousins soon, too. I feel so incredibly lucky that this happened, seemingly against all odds. My dad was initially raised Francophone, so it's a miracle that they even speak the same language. Anyways, thank you so much for taking the time to read through this, and my apologies for how long this post ended up being. I might post an update after I meet Jim and his wife. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Let's get a quick comment from the community. That visual of your dad curled up on the couch grinning as he texted Jim brought tears. Congratulations to you, your dad, your family, and your new extended family. Such joyful news. The OP replies, "Thank you so very much. I might have been crying a little bit while typing this out." Wow, what an incredible journey for your family. This certainly doesn't happen every day. It sounds like your family is expanding in the most wonderful way, with new connections and exciting opportunities to meet and bond with your extended relatives. Thank you for sharing such a touching and uplifting story. Looking forward to hearing more updates about your growing family. Update 1. 1 month later. First of all, thank you so much to everyone who left such kind and heartfelt comments on the first post. It's incredible hearing all of your stories. To those who were concerned that we would abandon my grandparents that I grew up with, that is most definitely not the case. They were the people I grew up with, and I absolutely love them to bits, although only my grandmother is still with us. All the incredible times I've had with her growing up are so much more important than blood, and I can't comprehend the stories I read where people forget about their adoptive parents or grandparents when they find their biological ones. I won't recap my previous post here because I'm lazy. So we just got back from visiting Jim and his wife, who I'll call Mary, not her real name, on the West Coast, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. We spent a week in their city and got to experience so much with them. Our first time meeting them in person was very emotional and felt very surreal. We spent the whole day looking through my dad's and our old photos, basically catching Jim up on everything that he has missed over the past 56 years. We also got to see many of his and Mary's old photos too, which was very cool. We went to a park near the house and on the walk. I heard Jim whisper, "My son," with a massive smile across his face. Throughout the week, we explored their city and saw so many cool sights and tried so much delicious food. Mary knows her city so well, and it was great to see her favorite spots all around the city, from food carts to gardens to museums. We all went to an incredible Japanese-American museum, and Jim and Mary absolutely loved it. They were very keen to learn about the internment during World War II and said that they knew a bit about it before, but now it feels so personal. We went on 2 hikes with Jim, and Mary wasn't able to come because she is in a wheelchair. It's so cool to have such an active and outdoorsy grandfather who is able to go on such long hikes. He taught us some foraging tips and told us stories from when he used to camp for years on end. Both he and Mary are very spiritual, so he told us great stories from meditation retreats they've done. He's even tried psychedelics, so he's definitely a cool grandpa. I won't go into the precise details of places we went, but it was great exploring such a cool part of the world with amazing people. We were all very sad when the trip was over and we had to leave. I've gained 2 new grandparents on the West Coast and I couldn't be happier, and they said that they've gained 2 grandchildren. I'm so glad that they see us as such. Mary told me her greatest regret in life was not being able to have children and grandchildren, but now she does. This has been such a transformative time in our lives, and I think it's incredible just how many people are so much happier now because my sister just happened to get my dad a DNA test. This is just the beginning of our relationship with our new grandparents, and I'm so excited. Now we have to figure out a way to go to Australia to meet Debbie. Whenever that happens, maybe I'll make another update. Until then, I hope you all have a lovely day, and thank you so much for taking the time to read our story. It's fantastic to hear that your visit with Jim and Mary was such a memorable experience. From diving into old photos to exploring new places and learning about each other's lives, it sounds like your trip was filled with meaningful moments and new connections. Best of luck with planning the trip to Australia and to meet Debbie. Your journey so far has been incredible, and I'm sure the next chapter will be just as amazing. Thanks for sharing your updates and bringing a smile to so many faces, OP. Best of luck. Do you have a similar story? Share it with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon. And put your chair back where you found it.